Hello everyone, I am Kenshin. Welcome to Talking About History. U.S. President Biden invites former President Trump, who may represent the Republican Party, to debate. The two will participate in televised debates on June 27 and September 10 respectively. Of course, this is not uncommon in U.S. presidential elections, but in the history of U.S. presidential election debates, there are 7 facts that many friends don't know. Let's discuss them together this time. Before the show starts, please subscribe, share, and turn on the little bell. This will help us grow faster. Without further ado, the show begins. The presidential debates. A staple of American politics that feels like it's been around forever, right? Well, not exactly. Believe it or not, this tradition is a relatively recent addition to the political landscape, kicking off in earnest with the iconic Kennedy-Nixon face-off in 1960. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's dive into 7 surprising facts about the history of U.S. presidential debates. 1. The history of presidential debates is surprisingly short. It's hard to imagine a time when presidential candidates shied away from campaigning, let alone debating each other. But in the early years of the United States, that was the norm. It wasn't until the historic face-off between Democratic Senator John F. Kennedy and Republican Vice President Richard Nixon in a Chicago television studio on September 26, 1960, that the major parties' nominees finally squared off in a televised debate. The Kennedy-Nixon debates marked a turning point in American politics, drawing enormous audiences and forever changing the way presidential candidates engaged with the public. But despite the buzz and excitement generated by these encounters, it would be a whopping 16 years before the next series of presidential debates took place. Why the long hiatus? Well, it wasn't for lack of interest. President Lyndon Johnson refused to debate in 1964, while Nixon followed suit in both 1968 and 1972. It seemed that the era of televised debates had begun with a bang but fizzled out just as quickly. But as we know, the debate stage would eventually become a fixture of presidential elections, providing voters with a crucial opportunity to see candidates face off on the issues that mattered most. From Kennedy-Nixon to the present day, these debates have become an integral part of the American political landscape, shaping elections and influencing voters in ways that few could have predicted. 2. The first presidential debates required an act of Congress. The Communications Act of 1934 was a landmark piece of legislation that aimed to regulate the burgeoning broadcast industry in the United States. Among its many provisions was a requirement that American broadcasters offer all candidates for public office, regardless of party affiliation, equal time on air. This was seen as a way to ensure fairness and prevent any one candidate from gaining an unfair advantage in the media. However, when it came to the 1960 presidential debates between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon, there was a hitch. The law posed a challenge because it meant that all presidential candidates, including those from minor parties, would have to be given equal airtime, a logistical nightmare for broadcasters. To get around this issue, Congress temporarily suspended that provision of the law, allowing the debates to proceed with just Kennedy and Nixon. It was a pragmatic solution that allowed for the historic face-offs to take place without running afoul of broadcasting regulations. But the story doesn't end there. In 1975, the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, revised the rules, paving the way for future presidential debates between the major party nominees to be staged without the need for special acts of Congress. This change streamlined the process and ensured that debates could continue to be an important part of the electoral process without the need for legislative intervention. 3. At one presidential debate, the candidates were separated by nearly 3,000 miles. The third debate of the 1960 presidential campaign between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon had a unique twist. It was the first ever televised split-screen debate. Unlike the previous face-offs where the candidates shared the same stage, Kennedy and Nixon appeared in separate television studios located in different time zones. Kennedy was in New York City, while Nixon was in Hollywood, California. Both men stood behind podiums in similar-looking settings, with the moderator and 3 panelists seated in a third television studio. This setup allowed for a seamless transmission of the debate across the country, despite the geographical distance between the candidates. One advantage of this arrangement was that it eliminated the need for any awkward post-debate interactions between the candidates. There were no forced handshakes or strained smiles as they left the stage together. Instead, each candidate could make their closing remarks without any direct physical interaction, a small but perhaps welcome relief in the heat of a contentious campaign. 4. During one debate, the candidates stood silently for nearly half an hour. The first debate between President Gerald Ford and Democratic challenger Jimmy Carter in 1976 took an unexpected turn when, with just 9 minutes left, the audio suddenly cut out. As viewers across the nation watched, ABC anchor Harry Reasoner reassured them that the technical glitch was not part of some grand conspiracy against either candidate. For the next 27 minutes, the two contenders stood frozen behind their podiums, their faces stoic as audio engineers rushed to fix the problem. Despite the awkward silence, neither Ford nor Carter made any move to sit down or show signs of frustration. In an interview with PBS newsman Jim Lehrer later on, Ford revealed that both candidates were hesitant to do anything that might suggest they were unable to handle such a situation. It was a remarkable moment in the history of presidential debates, highlighting the pressure and scrutiny that candidates face in such high-stakes events. Despite the unexpected setback, both Ford and Carter remained composed, demonstrating the determination to persevere through any challenge thrown their way. 5. A president was once a debate no-show. In 1980, President Carter decided that 3 was a crowd and opted out of any debate that included both Republican nominee Ronald Reagan and independent candidate John Anderson. As a result, Carter was notably absent when his two opponents squared off on September 21, 1980. The debate drama didn't end there. With Carter's refusal to participate in multi-candidate debates, both the vice presidential debate and the second scheduled presidential debate were scrapped. It wasn't until a mere week before Election Day that Carter finally agreed to a one-on-one debate with Reagan. During this pivotal showdown, Reagan delivered 2 memorable phrases that quickly became iconic in political discourse: "There you go again," and "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" These simple yet powerful lines resonated with voters and underscored the themes of Reagan's campaign, contributing to his landslide victory over Carter in the election. 6. The 2016 debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump was the most watched in history. The numbers speak for themselves. The 2016 presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump was a television spectacle like no other. According to Nielsen Media Research, a staggering 84 million Americans tuned in on September 26, 2016, to witness these two political heavyweights go head-to-head in their first debate. And that's not even counting those who caught the showdown via internet streams, mobile devices, or on C-SPAN, none of which were factored into Nielsen's ratings. This record-breaking viewership shattered the previous debate audience record set in 1980, when President Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan faced off in their one and only debate, drawing in 80.6 million viewers. Not to be outdone, the 2020 presidential debate between Joseph Biden and Donald Trump also made waves, pulling in a formidable 73 million viewers on September 29 of that year. These staggering numbers highlight the enduring significance of presidential debates in American political culture, serving as must-watch events that captivate the nation and shape public opinion. 7. Broadcast networks haven't always considered the debates must-see TV. It's a classic clash of American traditions: the fall campaign season, baseball playoffs, and the debut of the new TV lineup. But when it comes to vying for airtime, politics doesn't always come out on top. In 2000, for example, many NBC stations opted to air baseball playoff games instead of 2 out of 3 presidential debates. And Fox made headlines by choosing to skip a debate altogether in favor of airing the premiere of Dark Angel, a sci-fi series co-created by none other than director James Cameron and starring the iconic Jessica Alba. These decisions underscore the ongoing battle for viewership in the ever-competitive world of television programming. And while politics may be a national pastime in its own right, It sometimes takes a backseat to the allure of America's favorite game and the excitement of new TV offerings. So there you have it. 7 surprising tidbits about the history of U.S. presidential debates. From Nixon's makeup mishap to Perot's third-party triumph, these debates have been shaping elections and capturing the public's imagination for decades. What do you think about this story? Please leave your comments. See you in the next episode.